Here's how to do every glitch and peek that will impress all of your friends. Some of the footage is from previous patches, but I checked to make sure they all worked in the current patch 1.10.b, which came out literally today. So don't show this video to the devs or else they'll fix them. There will be some tips that are most just features of the game instead of glitches, but I just labeled them all the same for the sake of simplicity. There are a lot of spots in the starting airport lobby that you can glitch to get out of bounds, but the most consistent method I found was to walk over to this corner, start climbing the wall, and immediately after you let go, press 1 to take out your passport. If you physically see the other side of the wall, you can proceed to step 2. If you only see the wall still, then keep trying until it works. Once you see the other side, you want to hold Shift W to run without anything in your hand, then press spacebar to jump, and right before you reach the apex of your jump, you want to take out your passport again, and if done correctly, you should be on the other side. You want to really make sure you're not just spamming your keyboard, because timing your button presses will be way more consistent than just trying to brute force it. From here, you can explore outside the airport. You can go visit the Scoutmaster on the side, walk out into the abyss and fall through the floor forever, or if you want to rejoin your friends, then you can just jump through any of the windows since there's no barriers from the outside. Another small thing you can do is to get on these moving walkways, do the play dead mode, and spam jump to do a flying flopping fish impression across the airport. For this glitch, you want to find a piton and bring it with you to any very thin tree, usually found in the tropics map. Ideally, you want to place the piton on a tree that is in the open and not surrounded by anything else like bushes or other trees, since your character can spin into it and stop your momentum. The best spot by far is usually next to the campfire at the top, but depending on the seed for that day, there might not be any thin trees that spawn. All you have to do is hop on the piton, then press the play dead emote, and your character will start spinning around. This will cause motion sickness for some people, so be careful if you're the one performing the trick, and remember to occasionally press the play dead emote so that you can stay spinning. If you grab onto the baton and aren't spinning, you can play dead, drop off the baton very briefly before re-grabbing it immediately, so that some of the falling momentum transfers into spinning speed. If you have any friends nearby and you use your mic, they'll be treated to a funny audio distortion effect as you start spinning faster and faster.
Stratosphere again.
Bye, Goodbye, Poly.
I feel like not hit the push. Oh,
here we go, here we go.
What the?
Once you build enough momentum, you can press spacebar to let go and be flung at high speeds into a direction. You'll more often than not just die if you're doing this on the top of the mountain, so make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. If you ever want to get off this wild ride, then you can just not press anything and you'll eventually slow down back to the default position. I feel like this can unironically be a potential speedrun strat, because if you somehow manage to perfectly time your jump, you can get blasted super far forward and skip a lot of walking to the next section. In this clip, I somehow get thrown so far from the top of the tropics that I zoom past both the alpines and land somewhere in Caldera in the void, indicated by the background music changes. You can spam E spacebar on vertical ropes to climb them faster. If you find a rope spool and you're bored or something, you can also just place down a bunch of small ropes in a line or a circle and spam E to start conga lining. I found this works best around trees with a little gap below them, since the ropes can sometimes glitch into the floor and be uninteractable. The Scoutmaster spawns when one player is 200 meters or so higher than their previous player in the lobby, and despawns when the second player gets close enough. It can also spawn from the Scoutmaster's bugle, where they will chase the player that used the item until the ends of the earth. There are some tricks you can do to survive if you're being chased by one. Besides the obvious tip of running away to a lower area to get closer to a teammate, you can actually just chill on top of a tree and the Scoutmaster won't be able to reach you. They also tend to get stuck on these thin trees a lot, so you can try to hide behind them before they can path to you directly. If a teammate gets close enough, the Scoutmaster will despawn by running away back to the top of the mountain, but sometimes they'll glitch out and just infinitely run into the invisible wall near the campfire, where you can point and make fun of the poor dude trying to escape, and since he has a physical hitbox, you can even jump on top of them while your friends catch up. So there are multiple patch notes saying that they fixed some kind of chain launcher glitch, but the method I always use seems to still work pretty well. All you have to do is drop every item in your inventory to the ground that you want to duplicate, then immediately leave the game and get re-invited by another player in the lobby. After you rejoin, you should respawn back where you left, and you'll see the items in your inventory along with an extra pair of them on the ground. This will duplicate some items while other items get weirdly linked to each other, but if you have a chain launcher, one of the launchers will miraculously have infinite uses. Just be careful because every now and then you'll be unable to rejoin from a weird UI glitch or something that can only be fixed if the lobby gets remade entirely, but I personally very rarely experience that. If you rejoin and your items aren't duplicated, to try the glitch again until it does. Make sure you physically see 2 chain launchers before testing, or else the item will just be used up. If you take out an item with another player right in front of you, you can hug them and start dragging them around. You can also do this to very certain trees and basically just be floating in midair without using up any stamina, but it's very inconsistent and doesn't really serve a purpose, except that you can roleplay as a spinning coconut, I guess. This entire last part of the video is pretty complicated because of how many steps there are, and I honestly don't recommend anyone to try this unless you're insanely unemployed like I am. But essentially, you can beat the game by skipping the entirety of the Caldera and the Kiln through the void. You need at least 2 players. For now, I'll call them Player A and Player B. Player A should carry the bag and bring the starting flare, a lantern, and the compass. Both players have to climb through the shore and tropics map normally, but they both have to be alive at the second campfire, right before the Alpine map. And player A also needs to find some form of healing items such as a medkit, Pandora's lunchbox, etc. along the way, since they'll have to survive a big fall. The moment the second campfire gets activated before the Alpines, both players have to split off and go on their own ways. Player A with the items goes backwards into the newly standable slope area and runs as fast as they can to the other side, while player B has to climb with the Alpines alone. Eventually, player A will fall and have to save themselves right after taking fall damage with the healing item they have, and afterwards has to immediately start running north through the void. You don't really need the compass if you have a good sense of direction, but from the testing, I can confirm that some people got super lost really fast, so it's probably good to bring it with you just in case. Depending on the difficulty, you might have to bring an extra lantern to survive night cold or the fog, so player A really wants to be moving as fast as they can. After some time running, player A should see the text for the Kiln and finally the peak. The moment they see the peak text, they should light and throw the flare, then immediately leave the game. This is to prevent the Scoutmaster from spawning on player B, since if they're on a good pace, they should be on the top half of the mountain by now. Additionally, this will save player A from taking fog damage and dying. The moment player B reaches a campfire at the top of the Alpines, this is where the hardest part of the glitch happens, since player A now has to rejoin, but player B has to activate the campfire at a very specific timing. Both players will have to find some way to coordinate the timing through a call or something, but basically, exactly 11 seconds after player A presses the rejoin button, player B has to start lighting the campfire so that player A joins right as the campfire finishes activating at around 13 seconds. If player A joins too late, they'll spawn as a ghost and the glitch won't be able to be done. And if player A joins too early, the campfire won't be able to be activated, so when in doubt, it's probably better to be a little early since you can just retry. If done properly, player A will respawn back on top of where they left, and the campfire will activate the final section of the game. The helicopter will arrive after a few seconds, and you've now skipped the entire Caldera and the Kiln. The full explanation for why this works is pretty lengthy, so I won't bore you with the details, but the basic summary is that due to how things like the map generation, campfire activation, and flare detection all interact with each other in the code, this was the only sequence of events that I could find through testing that allowed you to even perform the skip. You could actually skip the entire game after the shore in previous patches, but due to some changes made on the 1.8 patch involving being able to finish while dead, I had to find a workaround. The timing for when both players have to join/activate the campfire could also be a bit different between lobbies due to things like loading times and ping affecting it, but for the most part, I found that the wait 11 seconds until starting the campfire was very consistent across all tests. And that's the end of the video. Thank you for watching, and I hope you'll be able to have fun with some of these before they inevitably patch them out. But if the developers see this, then I'll know one of you guys split the beans.